and welcome to another pen video from me, Penultimate Dave. So I have here another inks comparison video, and this is Sheen Monster inks comparison number 3. So I think with that, let's go and swap up some of these inks. So I get a lot of questions on how I do these ink videos. So I decided I would add this to the front of each of the ink videos. I put links in the descriptions, but I know some of you watch this on TVs or mobile devices, so you don't get to see this. So first off, the paper is the number one question I get asked. What paper do I use for these ink comparison videos? So this is the original Tomoe River. This is 52 GSM, and it is the white, not the cream, the white. Where possible, I try to go for the white because the cream can actually change the color of the ink just a little bit. So this is Tomoe River 52 GSM in the white. A lot of people get confused as well because I have what looks to be a grid on this page, and it's actually an Oxford Optik pad. These are the pads that I actually use when I'm writing my writing samples for pen reviews or in my currently ink. So they have these little squares up here. I just use that because it's a good guide for me. When I put this very thin sheet of Tomoe River over, I can actually see squares, so it helps me write a little bit sort of straight on the page. Not always, but sometimes it does. The other thing that I also have is I have a bottle of water, plain water, and I dip my nib in here. So for consistency, I use the same fountain pen, or I guess it's not a fountain pen, it's using a fountain pen nib though. This is a 3D printed pen from William Shakour in the UK. So he prints this material 3D, and it has a number 8 size Bock nib which I can unscrew, and you can see there. So it is just a dip pen holder for a number 8 size Bock nib, and the idea is I want to have consistency with the writing sample. So I use this, I dip it in the ink, I write, and then I will dip it in here, and I will rinse the nib off several times, and I will dry it, and then at that point I will then go on to do the next ink swatch and the next writing sample. So there you have it. That's how I do my ink swatches. So I just wanted to show you that here. Now on to the ink comparison video. So the first ink today on this inks comparison video is Diamine Skull and Roses, which is a German exclusive ink. So we'll do an ink swatch, and this is quite a viscousy thick ink. So typically if you find an ink that is quite viscous and thick, then you will normally find that it will most likely sheen. So I'm just going to try and layer this ink on because we want to try and show the sheening properties here on Tomoe River. So this is going to be quite a bit of ink, but I do want to show, as this is a Sheen Monster video, I want to show the sheen here. So this is Diamine, and it is Skull and Roses. But this typically is quite a nice red sheening ink. The next ink here is another German exclusive from Diamine, and this is Smoke on the Water. So we'll do another ink swatch here. And again, this is a viscousy ink. This is more of a teal coloured ink, and I always wondered when I bought this why it was more of a teal when water is normally blue, although I guess in maybe the Caribbean you would see the water, or the sea you would see a bit more green. So I'm just going to layer this on a little bit more, just want to show you the sheening properties if I can capture it on this Sheen Monster video. So this is Diamine, and it's Smoke on the Water. And I would have said Smoke on the Water would have perhaps been a bit of a maybe a blue. Smoke side would be grey, so it'd be a bit of a bluey grey ink. But this is strangely a bit of a green ink with a red sheen. The next ink we will try to show some sheen on is Herbin, and it's Eclat de Saphir. And we'll do an ink swatch here. Now, I haven't seen a huge amount of sheen on this one, so it might not be a sheen monster, but we will see what we can bring out in it. So I'm just going to layer on this ink and just see, because I have seen this sometimes in ink swatches and also in writing samples, but let's have a look. One more pass there, just to layer that ink on. And this is Herbin, and it's Eclat, and it's de Saphir. But this is a very nice ink, even if it maybe doesn't sheen or sheen as much, it's still a lovely coloured ink. The next ink here is Herbin, and it's Bleu Myosotis. Now again, this is another ink that I have seen sheen a little bit, but not massively. But we'll try and bring it out on camera, see if we can coax some sheen out of it. So we'll do an ink swatch here. And typically sort of purpley, mauvey inks will have some sheen to them, but they, in a lot of cases, do have to be very deep, dark purples, or even maybe a midnight blue colour. But let's see what we can do here, see if we can try and coax this out, and just going to add more ink to this, and we'll see what happens. So this is Herbin, and it is Bleu, and it's Myosotis. The next ink here is going to be Diamine Tyrian Purple. So we'll do an ink swatch. And I haven't personally seen this sheen for myself before, but I haven't used this ink much myself. I have seen sheen samples online though of this, so I wanted to give it a try just to see if I can make this sheen. So we're just going to layer this on with a lot of ink, just like the previous samples. The more ink, the more chance of sheen, essentially. So if we can just get enough ink on there, we have a much increased chance of sheen. So this is Diamine, and it is Tyrian Purple. Now, just by adding lots and lots and lots more ink will not necessarily make an ink sheen. It really has to have sheening properties to that ink, be quite thick, less water content to make that ink sheen. And then the last ink here on this Sheen Monster Inks comparison video is Diamine Violet. Now I just want to show you the rim of this bottle. You can see some gold sheen there, so I'd really hope that this one is going to sheen. I would be very surprised if it did not. So we'll do the ink swatch here, and you can see here it's actually, I'm finding it quite a lubricated ink, but it is quite viscousy as well, which also normally suggests that it could be a good sheener, and we've already seen gold sheen on the bottle rim there, so let's hope we can try and coax this sheen out and make it look quite nice. So this is Diamine, and it is Violet. So I think let's take a look at these inks now that they have dried. So the first ink here is Diamine Skull and Roses, and this very much does remind me of Organic Studio Nitrogen. Can you see any shading going on here? Not really, because there's just sheen. If I show you here, you can see that this blue ink turns to a lovely sort of bronzish sort of red ink colour there. It really is quite good. Do you see it in the writing sample? There is a little bit there. It is a little bit harder to see though, to be honest, but you do see it there in the ink swatch or the ink sample. So this really is a very nice sheening ink if you like a lot of sheen. The next ink here is Diamine Smoke on the Water, which, like Skull and Roses, is a German exclusive ink, so you can only really buy it from German retailers. Now, this is a teal coloured ink, or a very sort of dark green ink, I would say. However, there isn't a lot of shading going on either on this ink, because again, there is a huge amount of sheen. Just look at the sheen there that you get on that ink. So this is quite a beautiful ink. You can also see it very heavily on that writing sample as well. All of that is sheening ink. So this is an interesting ink, a sheen monster ink for sure, because this really does sheen a lot. I do find though that with these two inks, the Diamine Skull and Roses and Diamine Smoke on the Water, is that it takes a long time for these to dry, and that sheen area is still wet on both of those ink swatches, and you will find that it can stay wet for several days, if not longer. The next ink here is Herbin Eclat de Saphir, and you can see a huge amount of shading going on here around those pooled areas. And obviously, like with all of these inks, I did layer that ink quite heavy. Now, I have seen sheen before on this, but I am having great difficulties actually seeing sheen here, unfortunately. It does have like very minute sort of almost pixel-like sheen going on around those pooled edges. So I can see just a little bit of sheen, but it's really difficult. And likewise, the writing sample, it really isn't showing anything. So maybe this isn't a very good sheening ink. The next ink here is Herbin Bleu Myosotis, and you can see a huge amount of shading going on here as well on this ink. Now, again, can you see any sheen on this? It is very difficult. There is some sheen around the edges here, the darker areas on those edges. I want to say it's a little bit of a blackish, goldish sheen, but it's really hard to pick it up. There's a little bit here, I would say, on some of the writing, but again, it's really hard. So is it a sheening ink or a sheen monster ink? Possibly not. But I have seen sheen on this before, but you do really have to layer it on thick and maybe have some of that water evaporate from the ink. The next ink here is Diamine Tyrian Purple, and this is an interesting colour ink. It's not a purple colour, or it's not a colour that I would associate with purple myself. I typically like a more of a bluish, darker purple. However, there is shading going on here a little bit. You can see it here. There is also sheen. There is some like black gold sheen going on around those pooled areas. It's not as much as, say, Diamine Skull and Roses or Diamine Smoke on the Water, but it is sheening there as well. I'm not seeing it really on that writing sample though, so you're not probably going to see it much when you write with this ink. And then the last ink here is a Diamine Violet, and Diamine Violet I have had a lot of sheen from in the past, so I was fairly confident that I would get some sheen on this one, and I think it really doesn't disappoint. There really isn't a lot of shading going on. There's some darker and lighter areas, but it's hard to really say that that is shading, but what you can see here is a lot of sheen. So there is a lot of gold sheen there that you can see. It really is beautiful, beautiful gold sheen. And you can see it a little bit in that writing sample as well. I can see it sort of glistening a little bit there. So this really is quite a nice sheening ink. So if you do like a violet coloured ink and you want some gold sheen with it, then maybe this is one that you would like to check out. So there you have it. That's my Sheen Monster Inks Comparison number 3 video. If there are any of these inks that you like, then do let me know in the comments below. Likewise, if there are any other sheening inks that you would like me to check out, do let me know in the comments below. So that's my Sheen Monster Inks Comparison number 3 video. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next pen video. Bye bye.